recess. That was the best time of all.
All right, tell us about recess.
Well, the land was more flat, and so out here on this flat side, I don't know how many, but we had enough that we always played softball out there. Of course, we played all those old games like Red Rover, and Drop the Handkerchief, and I can't even think of it. Probably we even kicked the can around a little bit just for exercise. We did a lot of running back then. And of course, we played Annie over, throwing the softball over the schoolhouse here. You threw it over, and you caught it, and what we were supposed to do was intercept them before they ran back around to our side. So you divided up, not knowing who was coming, and so you had to intercept them and take the ball away from them. Then it was your point still. Otherwise, it was their point.
That sounds fun.
They weren't on. They didn't have their iPad.
No, not at all. But a lot of fun times. Of course, the bell thing was back farther back there in the old school. And back behind that a ways was the boys' restroom. And you had to cross the road to go to the girls' restroom. It was backed up to the creek almost. But a lot of interesting things. I guess I need to make a list.
You do.
Some year and jot them all down.
Games, colored in my color book. I sat in the back row here with my sister Nonna, and I was supposed to be studying because Robert took each class up front of terms and doing our subjects, and meanwhile we were supposed to be doing our homework, but I thought it was more fun to color and draw, and it didn't pay off. I had to do a retake. So, and like Barbara said, fun at recesses, eating our sack lunches and playing around, and just really a good atmosphere to grow up in.
The creek was nearby, Rocky Branch, right?
Yeah, in front of the school.
Did you all ever play in the creek, or were you forbidden to play in the creek, or was there water in it in the middle?
Not much. We did have to cross it several times when it was rained a lot. Robert, I remember him carrying me across the creek, and some of the smaller ones across the creek because the water was rushing a little bit. And the others walked across a big dead tree that had fallen across, but he didn't think I and some others could walk across without falling, so he carried us, the smaller ones, across. So we weren't good. We didn't have any way to help dry clothes or anything, so we really didn't do that. If we did, it wasn't near when it was hot, when the weather was hot.
Another thing my cousins, I carry scars from. One morning it was cold and we were taking a shortcut over the hilly meal there. We came down to the creek where there was a barbed wire fence that we had to crawl under, and so they were going to hold the wires for me, and they assured me I could get through. Well, up this back of this leg, I still carry the scar of hooking my leg on that barbed wire fence as I came between two layers of wire. So we had some exciting times.
How far did you all have to walk to school?
I don't really know. They always said it was 2 miles. I have no idea. We went about a half a dozen different ways. Any idea? It was 3 miles. Yeah, well, that's where I was walking from, the old home place.
Right down to Old Land Chapel, and you had to walk to Rocky Branch.
Down
But
the
you
rock.
cut across, go down Neverneely, and go on Glenwood.
Yeah, we went 3 different ways. We went out towards, behind the church, out towards where you turn right to go down to your place, and we went left and went across the ridge and came down that hill there, somewhere around the old Sigmund place, this side of that. And then we went, somewhere around where the Rocky Branch Lodge is. There was a place there we cut down the hill and came out by the big rock.
Yeah, Neverneely.
By Neely's. Then of course we'd go by the Neely's, and then of course we'd go the long way around, crossing all the creeks. So depending on how much time and energy I guess we had.
What about the big rock by Neely's?
Oh.
You were supposed to not get on that rock,
was a
right?
forbidden place to.
Played on it every evening.
I know it.
Every
Ev-
evening
Every
after
evening
school.
they play on it. We were forbidden to play on the big rock. Thank the good Lord for taking care of us that none of us fell off of it. But we would play on that practically every evening coming home from school.
If you've all ever seen the big rock sticking out of the lake over by the Rocky Branch Marina, that's it. It's usually just sticking up a little bit, but it's a
It was
pretty tall rock.
It seemed as tall as trees back then. And I wouldn't go near it now. I don't know why I wasn't scared to death of snakes back then. I am now.
Significance did that have? That you're talking about the rock over at Rocky Branch?
Uh-huh.
What was that?
They walked right by it to go to school,
To go to school?
Uh-huh.
where this building used to
But
be.
down below it, apparently.
You go around it and go that way.
The road ran this way and then it hit up.
We crossed
Coming
the
from the Neely property, we went down the little hill there and the big rock was here. And then you went that way back to Sigmund's and Webb's and so forth. And you went on around here and down past Paul's, well, Uncle Clark's place was over here and then Paul's old home place was here. And then you went another left and another right and across the creek. I've got that, I can still probably
I
follow
was,
those
I was one of the very lucky people because where the old land homestead place was is where I grew up, where my daddy was born and raised and so forth. And
Who was your daddy?
George Bland.
Okay.
And his dad was Samuel Merritt Bland. And I could see that we could see the big rock from where we lived,
Yeah.
from our home place.
Yeah.
And we could walk to school. It was just a matter of a few blocks, I guess. We just lived on top of the hill from the schoolhouse. We did have to cross Rocky Branch once, and of course, whenever it was up big, there was a big log there, and we was always falling off of it accidentally or on purpose. I don't know, but
Hit on the weather.
but one of the big highlights is you was all talking about the games was we had a lot of races, and everybody here I think knows Robert Neely and his long legs. Well, he could always outrun everybody, but one time I beat him. I outrun him, and that was quite a highlight to me that I could beat Robert Neely running.
Keith, anything, you walk 6 miles uphill each day, or? We walk a long way.
Seemed like 6 miles, right? Keith?
Well, Dad lived the same place that she was talking about. I walked the Rocky Branch. We don't know about how far it was.
You didn't think anything about walking that far back then,
They
huh?
didn't have no other way to go.
That's the only way to get there. That's right. No more pads, nothing else.
No four-wheeler, no,
Probably not a horse.
not even a horse.
Some of y'all know that my birth father, Wesley Fine, was killed in the war and ran Boyton. Anyway, they had their memorial services here at this school down there. And Neil, I don't know if he has it on here, but he has posted a picture of Daddy's sister, Annie Clever, with 4 of us children standing outside the school here. I don't know if anyone else had people living out here, but when some of us would run low on water, like we did living up on top of the hill there by the church, we would get hall water from the Neely well.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Hello, I'm Gene Bland. My dad was William Everett Bland. He might have been a teacher. For some of you folks, he was for me in the first grade. He wrote a book about the Blands that would be boring to you, but he included a map that I have on my computer. But my mother always said that big rock was in our backyard, so to speak, but I don't remember.
Do you remember any Christmas programs at the school? Were you?
Again, It was just first grade, and
First grade only?
and we went to Washington
Okay.
like grapes of wrath.
Christmas program. This school was a lot bigger then. Because we had the stage and we had a curtain off area on either side where we changed. And then we had the Christmas tree, which we went out and hand cut ourselves and hand picked, and it always sat over there in that corner. Correct me, sis, if I'm wrong. Yeah. And,
Both
as I
front corner?
said, I thought that we
Okay.
put on, you know, these Christmas plays, and we thought we did a very good job. But as I said, the stage seemed so much larger then. But the highlight week of our decorations, of course, we made most of them. We had a little bit of bought tinsel and icicles, but everything else we made and put on there. And the highlight of the evening, of course, was Santa when he came, and we each had a little brown bag that had hard candy and usually orange and an apple in it.
And it is to be presented to the eldest female former student. I'm not looking at you, but I'm wondering.
Me?
Keep coming, Wilma, otherwise I'm afraid that's gonna fall on my shoulder.
Holy man. Holy man.
Oh, thank you, that's lovely. I'm 85, in case somebody wants to know.
Good job. Hey, Wilma, how many years did you attend Rocky Branch School?
I can't remember exactly, let's see, I was down here in the late 30s and early 40s. So, probably 8 years or so, I just can't
Okay.
remember for sure. But that was a few years past.
It was.
How many of you are Bland descendants here? Well, we've got a fairly decent turnout. Okay. I'm sorry we don't have our separate reunion anymore, but this is certainly a good substitute. What I'm going to talk about for my 10 minutes is and I may not talk about it, don't let me scare you, is something that goes back to last year. Do you remember the Mulhollands being here and taking notes about the community and the Bland family and so forth? Well, their CD is out, and I know some of you have heard them perform it. They did several concerts in the area. I went to the one at Bland Chapel in, I think it was late June, and they performed all the songs that is on the CD. There are at least 3 of them that have something to do with this community and with the Bland family and with LaRue, and you'll have to excuse me. I pronounce that the way I was taught as a child to pronounce it, rather than this urbanized version that we hear now, LaRue. One of the tracks on here is LaRue, and it's just instrumental. There's another one called the Rest in Peace, Jack Bland, which is a cute little ballad about Uncle Jackie's death in his attempt to go visit his wife's grave after a big rainstorm. And there is one other called Abner Jennings Fair, and that is connected with this area. I think the community was called Jennings Ferry before they started calling it LaRue. So this is kind of neat, and I think you probably can get one from the Mulhollands. They have a website called Still on the Hill.
They told me if you're a Bland, you get it for free.
That's right. If you're a Bland, you get it for free. They might want a little shipping and handling. I don't know, but certainly call them and just ask. This got me thinking about the name of the community. it seems like Jennings Ferry was the first post office here. The earliest record that I found was about 60, no, it was in the 1850s. In the 1850s, the post office here was called Jennings Ferry, and then Jennings resigned to go join the Confederate Army sometime in 1861. Then a few months later, Jack Bland was appointed postmaster, but he too joined the Confederate Army, and the Confederates weren't able to maintain a post office, so it just was abandoned. Then in 1867, it was reestablished, and this time it was called LaRue. And Uncle Jack took credit for naming it. He said he named it for LaRue, Kentucky. And there isn't any such place. And I think Colonel Harrison, M. LaRue Harrison, who had commanded the Union occupation of this area during the war, had become a special inspector for the post office. And he was going around setting up these post offices. And I think maybe there was some sort of deal where the post office was named for him in order for Jack to get the post office back. And I don't know this, but there's an awful lot of circumstantial evidence. And there is a story in the statement in the 1920s in the Rogers Daily News. Editor Fink says he always assumed that LaRue was named for Colonel Harrison. In any case, in 1867, Mary Annalisa Bland, who was Jack's eldest child and eldest daughter, became postmistress. And I think the post office was actually in the Bland house. But Jack couldn't be postmaster because it's a government position and he had been a Confederate soldier. So she was the first postmaster under the name LaRue. If any of you has a family story on that, on the naming of the community, I'd like to hear it, if there are any other variants, because I've been very intrigued with this for a while, off and on, of course. Okay, and the other thing I'm wondering about in connection with that, I hadn't thought about Mary Annalisa in a while. She married a man named Edward Jennings, and they lived around Garfield. Do any of you know any of their descendants? I think maybe there's still some around. Nothing on that? Okay, well, I think that's my spiel. And thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Barb, tell the story of Rocky Branch School, your cousins, and the dare that they dared you to do.
Oh, gee. When I was going to Rocky Branch School, my cousins, Juanita and Belleville Bland, well, actually, Juanita hadn't started yet. It was Juanita and Belleville. They were 2 and 4 years older than I am, and they were always daring me to do things. And so one cold day at school, we had these iron posts on the steps. They dared me to stick my tongue to the metal part of the rail, and I didn't know any better, so I made sure I had a nice wet tongue, and I stuck it to the metal railing, and sure enough, my tongue stuck to the metal railing, and it wouldn't come loose. So after some time, I did manage to get it off, leaving a little tongue in place, but they thought that was so funny because they were always doing things to get a good laugh out of me. They were the ones that informed me when I was younger than I wanted to know that there was no Santa Claus. So they thought that was funny too, that I was still a believer. But anyway, they were good cousins.